Hi everyone, good Thursday afternoon and welcome to the Rhode Island State House. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in for the latest in news and politics. I have with me here Majority Leader Joe Shekarchi. Thanks for joining us today.
Always a pleasure to be here, Kate. Always a pleasure to do this. And I remember the first broadcast you had from this State House. I was your very first guest and I will never forget that.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I know you're off to the races and off to meetings, but one of the big pieces of legislation you introduced recently would be to address tax issues for small businesses impacted by federal tax changes here in Rhode Island, now specifically pass-through corporations, to be able to level the playing field, so to speak. I know a lot of folks had some questions about this, Leader, so tell people exactly how this works.
I will try to explain this, and I'm not an accountant, so I'll do the best I can, but it was brought to my attention by Cap Willie and Randy Detmeyer and several other accountants I have a lot of respect for, said, hey, there's something you can do to amend the Rhode Island tax code that will help small businesses here in Rhode Island. And it's called a pass-through entity or a sole proprietorship or a partnership. It affects about 39% of Rhode Islanders. The federal government, when they enacted the Trump tax overhaul last year, they gave favorable tax status to C corporations, but not to S corporations, and not to small people. So we've made some adjustments, or proposed to make some adjustments in our tax code that would level the playing field. But in essence, it's a tax cut for small businesses in Rhode Island. I'm working hard to push the bill through. Right now, there is a bill, a similar bill that has worked in Connecticut that has not been disallowed by the IRS. So we're marching forward on this bill. I know there was something to do with charitable donations that Massachusetts tried that was ruled ineligible by the IRS. But as of today, this bill is still eligible to become law, eligible for a tax cut for Rhode Island. I want to point out one thing so everyone doesn't rush on March 15th or April 15th to pay their taxes. It's not for this year. It will go into effect for next year.
Okay. And then question for you, you talk about a tax cut. Would there be kind of a price tag then associated here in the state if that ends up being the case?
No. This is revenue neutral to the state of Rhode Island. This is a tax cut that many people have shown support from, some very strong progressives, some moderate business people. What this bill would do, in effect, is you would be treated as the same C corporation. The state of Rhode Island would be revenue neutral. We would not lose anything, but people will be able to take a deduction on their federal taxes.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about a bipartisan piece of legislation, I believe just introduced again last week. This has to do with asset forfeiture. Now, on the Republican side and Democrats as well want to address this issue. So talk about working across the aisle to perhaps find a solution in your eyes.
That's not unusual. Most legislation is bipartisan. I seek out on almost all my bills to include Republicans as co-sponsors. There were Republicans on the tax bill. It's a bill that we need to look at and study. We have a new Attorney General. I know the former Attorney General did not like the bill, and I know some police departments didn't like the bill because when you forfeit assets and there's a crime committed, a lot of that forfeiture of the assets would go to the police department. So we need to work on that, and I support the bill to have a discussion on it, to bring all parties in together to work collaboratively on it and listen to this and see if there's something we can do that benefits the actual Rhode Islander.
Well, I appreciate you talking about a couple of pieces of your legislation introduced this session. I'm sure we'll have you back on here in the near future. Anything else you want to share with viewers while we have
Not right now, but Kate does a wonderful job and you should watch her show often.
Okay, thank you, Leader Shekarchi. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.